everyone talked about Vietnam. Cambodia came under the spotlight, but Laos, it's almost sometimes as though it never existed.
Yet there was a war here, a secret war, one of the biggest bombing campaigns in history. Those on the ground will never forget. Laos, a tiny corner of Southeast Asia, saturated with unexploded bombs.
ความรู้สึกที่ว่าเขาก็รู้สึกย้านอยู่
These damn bomblets are going off all over Laos, killing children and peasants.
Funding for this program was provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, and the Rogers Documentary Fund.
Northern Laos, a land of remote villages where people still live much as they did long ago, gathering their food from the land. But this land that feeds them also holds a hidden danger, which more than 30 years ago fell from the sky. Between 1964 and 1973, the United States conducted a massive air war against Laos, dropping so many bombs as to make Laos, with its 2.5 million people, the most heavily bombed country in history. This was a secret war, in violation of the Geneva Accords, and kept secret from Congress and the American people. The most feared type of bomb used was a newly developed weapon known as a cluster bomb. An estimated 90 million cluster bombs were dropped on Laos. Many never exploded, leaving the countryside littered with millions of unexploded bombs, or bombies.
I'd read the figures, the 9 years of bombing, the tonnage, all the rest of it, but I'd never seen a landscape like that. It was unimaginable. I had never ever experienced anything on that scale from a technical point of view. I'd seen big minefields. I'd seen some of the horrific situations that happen from scatterable mines in Afghanistan, but I'd just never seen a society that was so impregnated with ordnance.
The bombies that we find out here are everywhere. We found them in bamboo trees where they've actually been dropped when the bamboo was young, and it's in the cleft of a branch and it's grown up, and you'll find it's sort of 10 foot up in the branches. We found them in school playgrounds, in the classrooms, under houses. It's everywhere.
Xiên Quan Province, northern Laos. The approaching monsoon means it's time to prepare the fields for planting rice. Buntavi and his family share the work and the risk.
มันการเฮ็ดนาก็เป็นยุ่งยากแต่เท่านั้นแล้วมีแต่บ่มพี่หลายแต่ว่าได้ค่อยๆเฮ็ดเพราะว่ารักษาชีวิตเอาไว้เพื่อจะยืนยงคงตัวต่อไปข้างหน้านะแต่ว่าเราค่อยๆเฮ็ดถ้าว่าเฮาสิเฮ็ดไว้เพราะย่านสับบ่มพี่สับลูกปืน
It may seem foolhardy to work in a field of bombs, but Buntavi's family doesn't have a choice. If they don't grow enough food, they won't eat. Over the years, in this small plot, Buntavi has already uncovered nearly 50 bombies.
แล้วเฮาเห็นแล้วเฮาก็เก็บแบนลงคุมบ่มแล้วเดี๋ยวนี้ดินถมหมดแล้วเดี๋ยวนี้นะหลายมีหลายอยู่
If the farmer's got to plough his field, he'll take the chance and he'll move the ordnance. He could be lucky 9 times out of 10, but unfortunately in a lot of cases they move them once and get killed.
เป็นห่วงเนี่ยเพราะว่าแม่ก็เป็นห่วงหลายที่สุดย่านเพราะว่าย่านไปจับไปบายหรือว่าไปแบนไปทับนะก็เป็นห่วงหลายที่สุดแต่ว่าสั่งสอนลูกทุกมื้อแต่ว่าลูกลงไปต้องบอกลูกบ่ให้ลีนบ่ให้จับเห็นก็ต้องให้พาย
Buntavi and his wife have a right to be worried. Since the end of the war, there have been more than 12,000 casualties caused by unexploded ordnance. Unlike landmines, which are designed to maim, cluster bombs are designed to kill, and their metal fragments can be lethal for 150 yards, often killing not only a farmer, but his family as well.
This is the Bomb Live Unit 26, affectionately known out here as the Bombie. It's sort of two hemispheres containing up to about 80 grams of explosive with a fuse internal. Sometimes they're found in this condition like they were dropped yesterday, and some there you can see the ball bearings coming through the casing here. They contain about 300 ball bearings. Comes in two halves of a bigger shell containing up to about 670 bomblets. As it's dropped, the two halves open up. These are thrown out into the slipstream. This is as you would see it leaving the CBU, the cluster bomb unit, two halves together. These flutes on the outside impart spin. That in turn arms the central fuse. And when it hits the ground, it goes off. 300 ball bearings going off at ballistic speed. Quite a devastating weapon.
Today's a special day in the village of Taunua. Buntavi, his family, and the other villagers take time away from their work to meet with a team from the Mines Advisory Group. They meet in 3 groups, men, women, and children. The focus is on how to prevent accidents from unexploded ordnance, or UXO. Children are especially at risk. Not all accidents happen to puppets.
มีแต่วังเรือวังหนึ่งนี่มีแต่เด็กน้อยไปเตาะหลักควายอยู่บ้านเตอนี่ถึกเท่านั้นมันอยู่พื้นดินแล้วบัดนี้หลังจากนั้นแล้วแม่นว่าอยู่ต่อมาแล้วแม่นลูกเขยก็แม่นว่าเสียชีวิตย้อนก็ไปเอาเบื่อว่าสิมาเปิดนาอะไรนู่นน่ะบ้านยิงต่อไม้ก็ระเบิดขึ้นก็แม่นว่าเสียชีวิตคือว่าเพิ่นเป็นมาเพิ่น
When we'd first had any contact with the Lao people themselves, we'd asked them about casualties. And they'd actually said, well, no, casualties aren't that bad. And of course, as we began to understand that in places like Xianquang, in some places the casualties compared with the mine casualties in Cambodia, we said, why did you say that the casualty situation wasn't so bad when there were so many people being blown up? And the answer was really an education, because what we were told was we didn't think it was, because, you know, we'd lived for this for 2 decades, for more than 2 decades. It was normal. It was only now when we realised that it's actually something extraordinary from talking to you, from the kind of planning that we're making to solve the problem, that we realised that you don't have to live with this.
Buntavi and the villagers pinpoint over 100 bombies they've seen laying around Taunua. The bomb disposal team has already visited their village twice before, destroying bombies found near houses and in the village center. Most of the ones identified today are in nearby gardens, fields, and pastures. The villagers accompany Lai as she verifies the bombies that were marked on the map. Each is painted to prevent accidents until the bomb disposal team can return. Bombies have been killing people in Laos for more than 30 years. It was the Mennonites and Quakers from North America who first tried to do something about it.
They put their beliefs on the line, quite literally, to go there, to work there. And it was the Mennonites above all who brought the attention of the world to what had happened in Laos.
Mennonites are still working in Laos. Canadian Betty Kasdorf has been here for the last 5 years.
The Mennonite Central Committee first came to Laos in 1975, immediately following the war. And initially our efforts were mostly in reconstruction and rehabilitation from the war.
The first priority was helping people grow more food, but unexploded bombs were killing thousands of people, mostly farmers, who traditionally tilled their land by striking the ground with a hoe. In response, the Mennonites and Quakers distributed thousands of shovels, providing a gentler way to turn the earth. But people were still dying.
We realized that the problem was on such a large scale that we certainly didn't have the expertise. We needed to call in professional experts to deal with this. Mennonites are farmers, we're pacifists. We certainly don't have the expertise to deal with war materials.
Their call for help was answered by the Mines Advisory Group, or MAG, a British humanitarian demining organization. Villagers were trained as demolition experts. Today, a MAG bomb disposal team is back in the village of Tan Nua. They're heading out to deal with the bombies marked at last week's meeting. Neomala was in one of the first groups of trainees. At first, she wasn't sure this job was for her.
ย้านอยู่แล้วบัดนี้มาตัดสินใจต้องมาหั่นนะเพราะว่าพี่น้องเฮาก็มีหั่นน่ะตายย้อนระเบิดหั่นน่ะอันน้องของพ่อหั่นน่ะน้องของพ่อผู้หนึงหั่นก็แม่นตายอันไปให้คือกันไปเสียหญ้าให้แล้วก็เอาจกคันเสียแล้วก็มันถึกแล้วก็ตายข้อยก็คิดแบบนี้แล้วก็แม่นไปสมัครก็แม่นได้นั่นแหละไปเลือกก็ว่าได้แหละได้
A quarter-mile of electrical firing cable is run out to a hillside pasture and positioned around a group of bombies. Each bombie is prepared for demolition. Neomala is an expert at blowing up bombies. The tools of her trade are TNT and wire with a blasting cap on the end. The cap is inserted into the TNT, which is carefully placed on the bombie. The electrical leads are connected to the firing cable. To be safe, everyone must be at least a quarter mile away.
You've got to get it right first time, every time. Yeah, anyone could blow something up. It's not doing collateral damage, it's not killing anyone, it's not killing yourself.
ความรู้สึกที่ว่าเฮาก็รู้สึกย้านอยู่ย้านแต่ว่าเฮาก็เฮ็ดเพื่อความระมัดระวังค่อยนะให้ค่อยเฮ็ดหั่นน่ะเฮ็ดหยังก็ได้บ่ต้องเฮ็ดแฮงบ่แม่นว่าจับออกมาเนี่ยนี่นั่นบ่หรือว่าวางใส่แฮงบ่เฮาก็บ่เฮ็ดเฮาก็ค่อยเฮ็ดนะค่อยวางใส่นะ
Doing it 5 days a week, looking for ordnance in the ground, and it is